Welcome back to another episode of Let's Just Talk with Lex
and James.
So let's just talk. All right, so this episode, we're about to get into fighting fair. Arguments are inevitable, okay? But they don't have to destroy the relationship. So we're going to explore how to fight with love, respect, and resolution in mind.
Yeah, that's key.
It is. So I want to start off with the difference between healthy conflict and toxic conflict. So can you give me some of that healthy conflict vibe? What does that look like?
Honestly, it really looks like having open communication with your partner. For starters, because you need to be able to have that safe space to have that. We also have active listening, focusing on the issue, because it's very easy to get distracted and get caught up in right or wrong or like details or context, opposed to focusing on what the actual issue is that needs to be solved.
Mm-hmm.
What other ones we have? We got use I statements.
That's one of my faves.
Yeah, because own the stuff that you're like presenting. Like don't try to make it like, oh, these other entities outside of me are, causing this. Let's see. Be willing to compromise.
Oh my goodness, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, being willing to compromise is a biggie. I had to learn that.
We also have emotional regulation, respectful disagreements, problem solving, time to reflect, and follow-up conversations.
Period. So I feel like out of all of those, my favorite or one piece that I use a lot is the I statements. When you start to recognize when you're in communication with your partner, a lot of it can become you did this to me, you showed up in this way, and it makes your partner stop listening because now I feel like you're pointing the finger. Now I feel like it's more of a blame game than it is a conversation of actually what are you experiencing right now? What are you trying to relate to me?
Yeah.
So when it comes to those I statements, personally, I've been in positions where, so let me give y'all an example. If James did something and I wasn't sure what his energy was, I didn't want to be like, well, you had an attitude and your energy was this and that. I'll say something along the lines of, when we were folding laundry, I felt some tension present, and I don't know if you actually have something going on or if that was something that I was just feeling. Yeah. But I just wanted to check in and make sure that we were good.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to not portray, but I don't want to
project.
Yeah, I don't want to project. That's exactly what it was. Mm-hmm. I don't want to project anything that's not, what it is.
Yeah.
So in me using those I statements, it's pretty much helped me convey what it is that I'm feeling without blaming him, mm-hmm. which then it opens up more of that safe space for conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
Because that it can easily be. I'm still in a headspace of thinking about something that happened at work. So like, mm-hmm. I'm not necessarily being present, which is it is a me issue in that moment. But it's still showing that it's reflecting in the time that we're spending together. So by her acknowledging that, it kind of brings me to focus of, okay, hey, my bad. It's not you. It's not anything that you got going on.
It's not you. It's
me. I'm still thinking about some discussions that I had with a couple of my employees. So yeah.
And I feel like that goes back into that open communication as well, because when you're able to convey like, hey, it's not you, mm-hmm. and it is something that I'm handling, it eliminates the guesswork of, did I do something? Mm-hmm. Why isn't he telling me? Why is he being standoffish? I feel separate. And then you go down this whole path, especially as an overthinker.
Yeah.
Of every single thing that could be happening because things are being left unsaid.
In reference to toxic conflict, what do you feel falls into that category?
So many things. I feel like it's so easy to pinpoint all the ways of toxic conflict because it shows up more than healthy conflict.
Yeah.
So first things first, name calling. The name calling, the belittling is so uncalled for, but that's one of the main things that I see in, or even that I've experienced in toxic conflict. We got the interrupting. Everybody wants to be heard, and in that it's easy to be overly excited to interject and get your point across. A couple other things is the character attacks, and this goes back into the I statements, right? Mm-hmm. So in the character attacks, I'm more so focused on breaking you down and what you aren't doing and what you aren't saying versus actually just being present for the conversation and the issue at hand. Mm-hmm. Threats, for one. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna leave you. We're gonna get a divorce. I'm gonna, all the things. It's
all just manipulation tactics.
It is. We have stonewalling, rehashing out past issues, which is a major one. Playing the blame game, which we talked about earlier. Defensiveness, using silence. That silence can, like I said, really fill the room with a lot of what ifs, and you don't want that. And then dismissing feelings, making it seem like your feelings are not valid, but also ultimatums, right? Ooh. Which brings me into the next segment where we're going to take a question from one of our viewers.
So with everything that you've listed about toxic conflict, I don't know why I'm struggling to say that word today. Do you feel that society has put everybody in a position to basically romanticize it?
Yeah.
Because like,
I mean, between social media, your favorite celebrity, love and hip hop, all the things, everything is being portrayed as normal. So,
or the toxic things are being portrayed as
exactly. All the toxicity is being portrayed as normal, and we have to understand that. When we recognize something, and I'm not even talking about when you see something, but when you feel like something is off, or you feel like
energy,
you have to take note of that. You have to pay attention to what that's telling you. Mm-hmm. Another thing is growing up. We don't know how everyone's childhood was, but in most cases, or I'll say in a stereotypical way, in urban households, it's been a lot of conflict that has been toxic between yelling, leaving, and all the things. So that's what we know. That's what we know to be true. So it's almost like we don't know any better. So it's easy to romanticize it.
In the same breath, I feel like I'm not gonna like baby anybody out here, because people also know what they're doing, and like I said, it's to the sense where they'll have conversations about it and say, like, "Oh, girl, I love when he talks to me like that," or like some crazy shit, and it's like, but you like if the tables were turning, like you're in a space of an argument or something, you would see that as wrong. But it's like,
well, because even in those cases, I don't think it's so much the terms that's being used as much as it's the energy that's going with it.
Valid. Okay.
It's almost, and I hate to use this as the reference, but it's like a dog. If I was to tell my dog right now, I love you, but say it in an aggressive way, he would take that as, oh my God, I did something wrong. Like, tucking his tail, I gotta get up out of here. But if I was to say, like, I'm gonna whoop your butt, but I say, like, I'm gonna whoop you, but like in the cutest way, I'm able to receive it.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? But that's a real thing. Mm-hmm. So, yes, people know what they be doing, but we also have to look at the depth of it, the root of it, right?
Valid.
So even in that toxic conflict, or even in just in the chaos and all the different ways, understanding, why do I even like this? Mm-hmm. Why is this something that's normal in my household or in my relationship? Why is this something that I feel comfortable with?
Yeah.
Those are the questions we need to be asking. Because, I mean, I like a little rough Look,
Yeah. Time and place.
You know, if we're in that zone, talk how you gonna talk to me. But I do feel like we also have to have an underlying respect for ourselves.
Yeah.
What are the boundaries?
Like, don't be calling me names outside the bedroom. So I'm about to pop off.
Exactly. Please don't call me names.
Break my foot off in your ass.
Not with the boot. Not with the Krabby Patty 3000.
Oh man,
the SpongeBob.
This look like a space boot.
It does. You walking on the moon like Katy Perry?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Like Katy Perry, I'm dead.
I promise. But here's the thing: when it comes to both types of conflict, recognize one is going to help you grow, and one is going to be destructive.
Yes.
You have to ask yourself which one you're wanting for your relationship. Now, toxic conflict is easy. We all know that. We've seen it. All the things. Now, let's talk about how we want to handle the conflict there to promote more growth and less destruction. So, let's talk a little bit about some experiences that we've personally had with some conflict. Funny enough, and I'm very grateful, these days we don't have a lot of arguments or like real big conflicts.
Improved on our communication skills.
Yeah. But back in the day, baby, you talking, you know,
pettiness level,
pettiness, like really taking it to the next level.
Man,
honestly, we used to argue about everything.
Literally everything. Like the smallest stuff would like just. But that was also because we were in a space of newness with our relationship and getting to know each other, and not gonna fake, initially the people that we were getting to know, we didn't meld well together. We clashed constantly.
I think that first of all, what happened was we went from being in a long distance relationship where yes, we would communicate via like Skype. That showed how old we was, because do people even Skype anymore?
I don't even think that exists anymore.
Man, but we were Skyping, we were having conversations about, oh, I miss you, and like, you know, like things like that. But when we actually got married and moved in together, that's where we realized it was the little conversations in between and the little behaviors and habits and things like that. And we didn't know how to address those things with one another without the anger behind it or the frustration. So I feel like a lot of the conflict that we had prior to where we are now stemmed from, we both wanted to be seen, we both wanted to be heard, and we didn't feel like the other person was getting it.
Yeah.
We wanted the other person to understand where we were in the issue at hand, and I don't think that either one of us was in a point of taking accountability. It was more so like blame game. I'm packing my stuff. Well, it wasn't even I'm packing my stuff. You was packing my stuff.
Take her back.
It's her to send them. It was just a whole lot of craziness, right? But now, and I feel like it's important that we talk about how we got to the now, because that's a hell of a jump. It is. And I'm gonna let you kind of talk a little bit about how you think we got to this point where we have minimal conflict and how we handle that, and then I kind of.
You sure you want to give me that power?
Yes.
Oh, I'm about to be storyteller. Oh, I'm about to tell y'all the real story.
Oh my
God. So it all started
dun, dun, dun.
when I was fed up. No, I'm joking.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, I really did hit this peak in the relationship where I felt like nothing was ever really going my way.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We're here now. You made your choice.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's not even that things weren't necessarily just going my way. Like I said, it was more so we were in a space of two people actively trying to figure each other out in a shared space with two completely different mindsets.
Also trying to
That
figure us out individually and trying
yeah,
to mesh that.
yeah, yeah, because it was definitely still a lot of heavy energies that I was working through. Because at the time, I like when we first got together, I was still in the military, so my mindset
Yeah.
laser focus, baby, laser focus, just
And I was a young hot toddy, so
so funny.
I was just out here trying to live my life, but more so in the sense of like independence. Like
Yeah,
I was very much independent. I'm gonna do it myself, and just wanting to do things that didn't scream married.
yeah. You see the problem with that, right?
What?
Being married and screaming, "I ain't married."
Well, it wasn't that I was doing it intentionally. It was more so that I was accustomed to moving how I move. And I wasn't even doing anything crazy, but just like he didn't feel, and correct me if I'm wrong, prioritized just like in your position, in your role. Am I wrong?
Yeah,
I am wrong?
yeah.
Oh, can you elaborate then?
Because it was more so. It was honestly, it was more so like situation based, like not not me wanting to like see you as like a maid, like oh you ain't keep the house clean or nothing like that. It was more so just me focusing on my end of it where I'm like out working and stuff, and I come home after like leaving the house and the house was fairly clean and coming home and it being messy, and this was like before kids and stuff, and I'd be like, why am in my head I'm like, why am I coming home to a dirty house that was clean before I left when there's another person here who like I didn't make it dirty because I wasn't here.
Now, in fairness, I think we have two different um, ideas of that. But I will say, then it was more so I feel like we are partners and we should both be cleaning up. It shouldn't always be me. But also, I was having moments where, yes, a part of that was before we had our first child. But at some point in time, when I was pregnant, it was a lot of me not feeling well. And that again goes into the yes, he was working and all the things, and that should not be invalidated whatsoever. But he was dealing with his stuff, and I was dealing with my stuff, and it just was not communicated well. It probably wasn't even communicated at all, unless we was arguing about it.
See, now it was communicated, but at that time,
It wasn't communicated in a way where I could receive it. I apologize. I'm sorry.
so yeah, at that time it was more so the tone was always the focus
Mm-hmm.
of oh well you're raising your voice now in this aspect, even if I didn't, or even if I started the conversation not yelling, but then we got to a point where it was so much back and forth that yelling ensued. It's like okay, now you're yelling, and it's like
Yelling.
now the message that I'm trying to deliver of hey, I just wanted the house cleaned up was not getting across because the new focus was the tone.
Okay.
Is it heard?
Yeah. No, I hear you, and okay. I hear you, and like I said, I feel like we both just have our own understanding of that time.
Mm-hmm.
Because yes, I will say we had conversations about it, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, my focus was very much the tone, because I cannot receive anything you're saying to me when it sounds like you talking to me like you my dad, you yelling at me, or like something like
Yeah.
that, right? And
Yeah.
at that time, we're in the space that we were in, that was the focus, was all of like the negative aspects, because we hadn't learned how to really communicate with each other in the way that we knew we needed to, or like now I can understand like how to communicate with you about certain things or how to bring certain things to you and also how to receive them from you.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, we was fresh.
Yeah. So, and like with that, we've often talked about like how when anything is brought to somebody's attention about them, defenses automatically go up. So
Right.
it's like everything feels like a personal attack, even if it's not.
Yes.
So figuring out how to address that, and also how to receive that, it takes time. It really takes time, and like the focus and also tips as to how to actually approach that.
So, in all of that, one thing that I do know was we had a lot of ultimatums back then. It was a lot of you either do this or that, or I'm gonna do this if you don't, like, a whole lot of that. Which brings me to this next segment where we want to take a question from a viewer. And her question,
Let me see.
Babe's got it.
Let me pull it up real quick. The question from T in Columbus. Okay, so it says, I'm in a relationship and we're having some disagreements about the resolution to our arguments and ultimatums. Wait, no. And ultimatums always seem to come up. Can you give me some advice navigating this?
Okay, so going in, I feel like we already need a little more context.
Yeah, because
this could be a disagreement about anything.
like ultimatums as to what exactly?
Like what's
like a little context.
Yeah. So T, if you listening, send us the context.
555. Based on the information given so far from this, disagreements about resolution. Yeah, personally, like we've had like ultimatums in the past, but that's not really something that we
really deal with now.
Yeah, we don't really focus on ultimatums or like really bring that to the table per se, I guess, because everybody always talk about what get brought to the table.
We don't bring that.
We try to keep ultimatums off the table because it's not really conducive for either partner. Because if you're in a position of giving an ultimatum, you're already halfway out the door of the relationship. Like this is like, oh, this is my last little rope of life. Like I'm tossing you a lifeline. Like either you take this or I'm gone.
Yeah.
And for that person, it's like, oh well, I have things that I want to talk about too, but you're leaving me with this and this, and it's like, what do I do with this?
Alexa, play Midnight Train to Georgia. No, I'm joking.
I'm up out of here.
Let me stop, because Alexa actually is about to start playing it, okay?
Man.
But seriously, when it comes to presenting an ultimatum to your partner, to me it sounds like there isn't healthy community, or I can't even say healthy communication. There's a lack of communication somewhere. Mm-hmm. And this also makes me feel like there's some underlying things that have maybe tried to be addressed in some way or another that still is like missing the mark.
Yeah.
And so we're at this point now, like he said, where it's okay, I'm tired of having the same discussion. I'm still not feeling like I'm getting the results that I'm seeking. Is this or that?
Yeah.
Now, again, without context, going into like the more root of it. What is the root of the issue at hand? Because if this is something that is reoccurring, that keeps presenting these arguments, we need to understand why before we start to figure out a solution. Because what is the real problem? Is the real problem that I don't feel like you value me? Is the real problem that you're choosing things over me? Is the real problem that there's things that I feel like you should be working on in this relationship that you're not? Like what is it? Mm-hmm. So really gaining that understanding. And also I feel like for the person that's, because this is T giving the ultimatum, I feel like you shouldn't be giving ultimatums as a whole, because it doesn't necessarily get you to where you're trying to be. You're now operating from a space of control where you need things to be a specific way, because you feel like everything else hasn't really worked. And then coming from the person receiving the ultimatum, I can imagine that feels like I'm completely shutting down or backed up against the wall, because how dare you give me a choice to make? Like, and then obviously, let's just say, like, this is from the masculine perspective. I'm already about to be like, you got me messed up.
No,
and I'm not a man, but like, like going
what you
in.
mean?
Yeah, it's like your immediate reaction is not receptive to an ultimatum. So being mindful of what it is that you're actually presenting. Well, what you got, babe? What you got? Where your antennas taking you?
See, now, again, I don't feel that ultimatums belong anywhere in a relationship.
Okay.
Like if you're in a space where you want to continue a relationship, ultimatums don't belong there. Like I said, if you're bringing an ultimatum to the table, you already got one foot out the door. So from the masculine perspective, a lot of times, yes, it puts you up against the wall. But in the same breath, like me personally, if you said, "Hey, I'm tired of you leaving your socks around the house," like, pick that shit up or I'm done. Like like it could be something that
I'm not
simple.
doing laundry for a week.
Now, for me, yeah, I may be like, okay, hey, yeah, I got my own concerns that I want to address, but I'm also gonna hear you in that moment, which is why ultimatums work a lot of the time, but it's not necessarily a healthy way of doing things, because the ultimatum will then spike and bring attention to, hey, okay, this person is like, they got their hazards on, they flashing, is like, hey, pay attention.
But see, you're a rare gem, buddy, because saying that you're going to hear me, not everybody's going to.
Yeah.
Not everybody's going to be able to pick apart the pieces of what was placed on the table and be like, let me take this bit. They more than likely are going to take the bit that is unhealthy or the route that is defensive or, anything like that. And when it comes to being presented with an ultimatum, that is important. Taking the factor of why is she or he or whomever presenting me with an ultimatum right now.
Yes, and you have to be in that mindset of empathy when it comes to being in a relationship, because it's not just you.
Exactly.
Like you can't remain in that space of ego. Like you have to understand, okay, yeah, I got my own feelings, yada yada. Again, I'm not I'm not here to, root for people use ultimatums, because at the end of the day, it's a form of manipulation. But like I said, in the same breath, it's also a cry for help, because you're at this point where you're so tired of saying the same thing. It's like, all right, like for myself, you're not giving me any options. Like either you go do this, or I'm just like about to slide up out of here. Like, so.
But what about those cases where, and I wish I could really like think of a scene right now or like a moment, but what about those times where a conversation is being had and the person is not necessarily presenting it as an ultimatum, but is being received
that
as
way?
an ultimatum?
Ooh, yeah.
Now, how do we navigate that?
You need to create a safe enough space to say what you really mean. Because a lot of times the ultimatum is being put in place because the actual issue that's being addressed isn't properly being addressed.
Fun fact, I feel like this is a good time for the I statement as well.
Ooh.
Because on the receiving end, and I mean, honestly, initiating and on the receiving end, because let's say on the receiving end, you feel like someone's giving you an ultimatum, even if they're not saying this or that, then you can proceed with, I feel like that came off in this way.
Yeah.
And if you didn't mean for it
Please
to come
clarify.
off in that way, yes, please clarify so that I know basically how to respond. So, now let me ask y'all, our viewers out there, how would you navigate being presented with an ultimatum, and what steps would you take to recover? What steps would you take for, the healthy recovery after? Let us know.
Yeah. After all that has been hashed out, you don't just want to leave everything on that sour note of, okay, the ultimatum has been presented and we just in this nasty space now. Like, there has to be some form of resolution and making up.
And the making up matters.
The making up,
big time.
The making up is really what get romanticized for you know. Yeah. Y'all nasty.
Is. But in real life, apologizing and getting into that healing, that recovery is so important, because first of all, let's just talk about how I'm sorry and I apologize. It means absolutely nothing.
Without change behavior.
It null and void. Because what I'm hearing is the repetition of apologizing, but I'm not seeing a change. So therefore, the value is now being lost from the apology, because I'm not seeing anything that shows me you mean it. And I'm also not going to remind you, hey, you apologized for this last Tuesday and here we are again, you know? And it's not to say that there won't be occasions where you're making up for something that obviously is a recurring cycle, but that's where it comes into play with the praise for your partner when you do see those small subtle changes.
Yeah.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Continue.
So if, like I said, if James is asking me like, yo, I've been picking up these socks all over the floor and you said you was gonna pick them up, and I go, oh, I'm so sorry, and I don't pick them up, it's like, damn, okay. But let's say I do pick them up and maybe like a few times after that he notices like, oh damn, like she put her socks in the dirty clothes or something. For him to be like, babe, I noticed you put your socks away and I appreciate
that.
And not in a condescending way, because if you present it in a condescending way, it will, again,
like, oh, look at you being a grown up picking up your clothes. Like, no,
look
don't
who
be
finally
asshole.
gets the message, right? And we don't want that. So making sure that you are giving your partner that praise and not like a doll. But
because I feel like a lot of times what will happen with that, even how you're talking about like apologizing without changing behavior, if you're in that headspace of being mad about some socks being left on the floor, even if your partner all week has been picking up their socks, the next time you see socks on the floor, you're gonna be like, fuck, you're doing it again. And it's like, it's all that energy is gonna come right back, and you're gonna be like, I don't care about your apology because you're still doing it. And it's like, damn, okay, I'm making adjustments. Like, it takes time. I'm not gonna just be doing it every single time.
Yeah, and you have to give not just your partner grace, but yourself grace. Because the thing about learning, growing, and creating these healthy ways to experience conflict is understanding that it's not perfect. And
by any means,
we are unlearning a lot of stuff. So, you know,
to build yourself into a better person.
Exactly.
Better two people.
I love you. Oh my God. Oh. You didn't love me back.
I love you. I ain't gonna love you.
I want you to give me a kiss. So funny. All right. If you stay this far into the episode and you're enjoying the conversation, and I know that you are, head on over to our Patreon so you can join the community, be a part of the Johnson fam, okay?
And not only that, but get some tips and stuff too about, you know, how to build a healthier relationship with your partner. So
you get all types of exclusive access, behind the scenes, like he said, tips, conversation starters, all the good stuff, okay? And if you want to continue the conversation, that's where you can go.
Ready to close it out? Before we end it out, thank you, T, for your question. Any of our other viewers, y'all want to send us questions, go to our Patreon. That's where you'll be able to post everything. And
we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you guys in the next one.